Hey everyone, a huge event, at least to me, I think that's happening now in the board game world, in the board game industry, is with the two businesses, one of the biggest ones, at least with all the games that I have, Fantasy Flight and Games Workshop, have decided to concede their partnership, meaning that they will no longer be working together, which means that Fantasy Flight no longer has the rights to particular games. Now what does that mean as to to Fantasy Flight, and also what does it mean for Games Workshop? And this is all based off my opinion on, I'm also a business major, so I can kind of throw in my input. And we're also, this is going to be something new, like kind of like a news discussion on this event. But basically, in 2008 is whenever Fantasy Flight and Games Workshop started working together, and I'm going to have this here to keep me up to date on everything. Which Games Workshop has had multiple universes that they said, hey, Fantasy Flight, make these games for us because either we suck or we don't want to do it and you're up and coming and you can do a better job than we can. So they gave them stuff like Dark Heresy and the Warhammer universe and a lot of stuff in the Warhammer universe actually. And basically, since then, Fantasy Flight took off, like with a lot of Warhammer games that are hugely popular, that a lot of people like, and I'll give my opinion on what I think later, and other games. And Fantasy Flight and Games Workshop, they haven't really given a reason as to why they're not going to renew the license or the partnership. It could be, you know, multiple ways. One, either Games Workshop just didn't offer a renewal, or Fantasy Flight didn't ask for it, or they both just mutually agreed that, hey, we're going to go our separate ways. It could have been Games Workshop was demanding too much money to keep it going, or they couldn't decide on how the money was going to be split. Now the Fantasy Flight games were unfortunately going up in price, so they're like, since they actually all got bought out by Asmodee, I think it's Asmodee. Since they all got bought out, board game prices are probably going to be going up a little bit now. So Games Workshop could have been like, okay, well, we want more, yada yada. It could have been a whole lot of shit that just caused them to go their separate ways. And this is actually incredibly huge because the list of games that Fantasy Flight can no longer do is actually substantial in this. And according to on Fantasy Flight's website, beginning February 28th, so the end of February of next year, all the games that worked with Games Workshop will no longer be available to buy through Fantasy Flight. Now, whether you can go get them on Games Workshop or whatever, it remains to be seen. And if you do, it's probably going to be a huge price difference. But these games are, you know, like I said, widely popular, and all those games, I'm gonna list them off real quick because a lot of them are recognizable to me, and the others are probably well recognized by people who've been playing games more than I have. And there's one game on here that actually crushes my soul, and basically is the reason why I'm making this video. So here it is. Black Crusade, Blood Bowl Team Manager, Chaos in the Old World, Chaos Marauders, Dark Heresy 2nd Edition, Death Watch, Forbidden Stars, Fury of Dracula, Only War, Relic, Rogue Trader, Space Hulk Death Angel, Talisman, Warhammer Disc Wars, Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, Warhammer Invasion the card game, Warhammer Quest the adventure card game, and Warhammer 40,000 Conquest. So 18 games that will be taken off. Now, if you go to Fantasy Flight's, you know, shop, they do of course have other games that you can buy, but the ones that are on this list that I recognize and have personally either owned or played are Chaos in the Old World. Perfectly fine game. It was kind of simple to me in my book, but perfectly fine. It was kind of where Blood Rage came from. Blood Rage was, yeah, Eric Lang. Basically, it was Warhammer Blood Rage. Perfectly fine game. Forbidden Stars, I've done a run-through for that game, and while it wasn't for me, I could definitely see why others would like it. Very big game, really good miniatures, just a solid game, but it just wasn't for me. Fury of Dracula. Now it says Fury of Dracula on here, And I bet if I click it, it'll actually go to the link. Yeah, it's all of them. Like, it's not just like the first edition or second edition. It's all, and that just came out not too long ago. I believe at the beginning of 2015 it just came out. I've done a run through for that. It's a fantastic game, and it's a shame because it's one of those games that they could, you know, remaster again and just keep building on it. Relic, I really like Relic, and there was so much more that they could have done with it. They only have, to my knowledge, 2 expansions out. Now, they were bigger box expansions, but Relic is based off the Talisman system, so, but it's Warhammer. And it's a real shame because there was so much they could have added that Fantasy Flight no longer can add, or even sell, or do anything with. And then, the reason why this was actually told to me, because, and I asked him and I was like, okay, so? And then he's like, well, I just told you because of your huge love for Talisman. And for anyone who has watched my show for any extended period of time, Talisman is my absolute favorite game, and there's so much expansion. Now, granted, with all the expansions, I'm pretty satisfied, but they can always add more, and I will always buy it. And it's a huge, like, I'm so mad and upset that there was other expansions. They had one to connect the dungeon and the city as Old Smo, and they could have done that for everything else, but they can't anymore because of this partnership breakup. Basically, they're breaking up, and I'm just super depressed on that because of my love for Talisman. Like, I have a huge box right there that has everything like organized, and it was one of the first. If I don't include Descent, because fuck that game, it was basically my favorite game, or not my favorite game, my first game that got me into this hobby. And my God, it's just, this breakup hurts me the most, and it really does. Like, nope, not the fact that they're gonna be losing money or anything. It hurts me. No, and then there's Warhammer, Warhammer Quest. Haven't played it, but I've seen it played, and it's just not for me. But it was actually. What I've seen is that it was really well received. But the other ones I haven't even touched or heard of, but they may be known to others. But that's 18 games that are coming off of their list that, while some are either a lot of money, and when people buy they make a lot of money, or they're very, very popular and people buy them. Or, now, to Fantasy Flight, maybe these are games that were actually, you know, starting to, you know, fill up the shelves, and like when they're not selling as much anymore. And maybe they stopped, you know, this partnership because they're like, we're not even selling their games. Why would we pay for a partnership because we're not going to be losing anything if if their games don't sell anymore? Which, you know, that could be it. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. Or Games Workshop is like, Fantasy Flight is doing a really good job. I bet we could too, so let's go ahead and, I mean, we own all these games. We can go ahead and start making them our own and build on that, or make newer games. And I've seen a lot of people, because there's a blog on Board Game Geek, and some people are actually hoping that this runs Games Workshop out of business. I don't know how they deal or in their business, or what kind of product they did probably prior to this. Maybe they were just shit, and that's why they partnered with Fantasy Flight. And that could be a plausible reason too. But now the more I think about it, is that a lot of the games that Fantasy Flight has been coming out with lately, they still hold on to. They still hold on to their Star Wars games, their Descent, their Lord of the Rings, and their Game of Thrones. Screw Descent. The 3 Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, and Game of Thrones are hugely popular. Like, vast worlds where they can just keep making new and newer games and build on the other ones. They just did, like, Lord of the Rings, the card game, Game of Thrones, the card game. They still hold on to Arkham Horror and Eldritch. They just made an Arkham Horror card game. So all these vast worlds that they're just, oh, let's make this a game. And just, like, they can cherry pick whatever they want. With Star Wars Imperial Assault, they just do expansions because you can build on the Star Wars universe and build that game. And they're now going to be integrating an app like they did with Mansions of Madness, which is also something they have. They still have all the Cthulhu games. But integrate an app to get rid of the Imperial player, just like they did with Descent. recently to get rid of the Overlord, I think is what it was. And then, like I said, Mansions of Madness was the keeper. So the more I think about it, the more I think that Fantasy Flight actually is not going to be hurt by this. Yeah, they're probably going to lose some money based off of these games, but probably they're still going to be making more than what they're losing. So they're still going to have a net gain based on everything else that they could do. They also have Runebound, whether you like that or not, and plenty other games. Because most of the games that I own are actually from Fantasy Flight. Now, the more I play, the less, the more I branch out. But I'm just looking, Lord of the Rings, the card game, there's Middle-earth Quest that they can do, there's Battles of Westeros, there's Game of Thrones, the card game, there was a Game of Thrones board game that they've done, Star Wars Rebellion, which it's fantastic, Star Wars Imperial Assault, so I actually think that they're going to do really well. Now with Games Workshop, I don't know much about Games Workshop, so I don't know, but it seems like they probably could have taken these games, and what I can hope most from this is that they just keep making Talisman expansions. But if they don't, I'm not going to be actually that upset because I do have a lot, and there's a lot I can do with it to make it more thematic with all the cards, yada yada yada. But they could take these games, because half of these I don't even know. I don't even know what their ratings are, I don't know anything, but the ones I do mention are ones that I personally had interest in. Another thing that could have sparked this separation is that Fantasy Flight is starting to delve more into app integration into their games. You know, with Mansions of Madness, Descent, and then also Star Wars Imperial Assault. That Games Workshop may not like that, and for some reason this seems to be a huge controversy. Not really controversy, but the topic that it's like, okay, either you really like the apps going into it, or you really hate it. You're like down with technology and board games. And Games Workshop is an older company. They've made older games, and they could just be kind of stuck in their ways. They could be like, we don't like this, so we're going to separate. I don't know. That's just one thing that they could that could have. It was probably a lot of things, but that could have been one of the things that caused this separation. With this separation, it looks like a lot of people were more concerned about the Warhammer side. Like the Warhammer, they did a FAQ about Warhammer games. So one was asked, what does that mean for the Warhammer 40k Conquest? It'll conclude this year. The organized play, the tournaments will conclude this year. And after 2016 World Championships, there will be no organized play support for Warhammer 40k Conquest. And then also with things that were scheduled to be coming out, those are still going to be coming out, but it's basically until the end of this year is whenever they'll stop doing that. And then basically in February, the end of February, so 2 months into 2017, there may be games coming out in between then that they'll release, and then once March hits, is when we will no longer be seeing those on Fantasy Flight's website. But in the title of this was called A New Path Forward, so that could mean that they, obviously it wasn't just like, I thought we were in good standing, I thought we were, everything was going well. No, they probably were planning on this for a while, and they can just, once that hits, they're like, okay, we just don't sell these games anymore. And if you do like these games, and Games Workshop is just taking them, probably expect the price to go up because they do not have the Fantasy Flight name on them anymore, and so Games Workshop is probably going to start making their own games, so they're going to need some money to start making their own games, and I can see out of these products going out of print, and that's going to make them super expensive and hard to find. Over time, the hard to find part, the expensive part's going to happen almost immediately. And it's just a shame for me because of Talisman. The rest of the games, Relic is probably the second one that I'm kind of upset about after Talisman, but even then, like, the rest of them I really couldn't care less. Fury of Dracula, third, I really like it and I have it, thank God. But other than that, I don't foresee it being that big of a deal. Now, I mean, obviously, all that remains to be seen later on. Once it actually stops in February, we could see a huge decline in Fantasy Flight games. We could see an increase in games, or we could just see them both thrive. I don't know. I don't know. But they've been around for a while, and it's just, I don't know. But I figured I would just do a short video. I don't even know how long I've been talking. A short video on what's going on. If you don't, go on Fantasy Flight's website or Games Workshop's and you don't know what's going on, you don't know what Board Game Geek is or anything like that, then just quick shout out of what to expect later on. And let me know if you actually like these news board game discussion things, and if you do, then I'll actually start doing some more research and look at big events and start discussing on what I think on what's happening and what could happen. And of course, if you have any other topic that you'd like to see me cover, just let me know in the comments below as well. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you. Hey everyone, thank you for watching, and I hope that you enjoyed the video. If you want to help out the channel, I have my Patreon link right there. If you want to make some suggestions on board games you'd like to see us run through, I have my Board Game Geek list right there. And if you want to just, like the Facebook page, I have my Facebook link right there. And have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.